Hey everybody, it's Sid Sexton and my good friend Keith Glines with another episode of the Overlap Podcast. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, Sid.
So we're coming back with a podcast we've actually had on the books for a little while. We've been talking about for a little while, and it's, I think it's a podcast that our regular, routine, just really loyal listeners are going to see as maybe not for them. And I'm going to encourage everyone to listen to this, and please listen to all of them, obviously, but really listen to this and see how it can pertain to you in your life. Because it's one of those, this is a subject that I have avoided and thought that maybe I didn't need. And it really has opened up my mind to lots of other things and lots of opportunities with personality tests. And first, knowing who I am, but then two, figuring out what other people are and how other, essentially, and I'll just break this ice, is God has created everyone unique and in different ways. And if I want to be an effective leader, I've got to kind of understand that and understand that perhaps they hear things a little bit different, or I need to change the way I communicate a little bit different so I can actually connect with them. And so Keith actually has a friend, I know, shocking, other than me, this is his area of expertise. And so Keith, why don't you take it from here?
I think so I look at this, what we're talking about today, and it's the Enneagram as a tool. And there's a lot of controversy. If you look around, there's a lot of controversy about this test.
I did not know that there was any controversy. This is how much my head was in the sand.
There is. And I don't think there's any personality test that is more talked about right now than this. So I thought it would be a great time to have Kerry on. Kerry, welcome.
Thank you.
So you were on another friend of our podcast, and I was listening to what you were talking about, and I was like, this guy really knows this test, so why not have him on here? I've been using it for a while now, mainly to hold stuff over my wife's head that she's bad at.
Yes.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, and so
that's helpful.
So, Kerry, welcome to the Overlap today.
Yeah, I can't wait to get started with that intro. That's really good. Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Kerry.
I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity.
But I really saw it. So, as I've gotten into the Enneagram, I really saw the benefits over any other personality test that I've ever taken.
Yeah. I have taken a few, Myers-Briggs being one. We actually talked about that. Yeah. DISC, I've taken Culture Index, which I kind of like Culture Index. Mm-hmm. And I've taken Insights, which is another one. And I liked them fine, but it felt like I was just fluffing up my ego, But the Enneagram somehow kind of tied me into that there's something deeper to it. So.
Well, I liked that the Insights did call you fiery.
They did call me fiery. and fair enough, right? That's true. But Kerry, why don't you kind of introduce yourself to the podcast? Flowers, right?
Kerry Flowers, right?
Kerry Flowers, thank you. And just give us a little bio, where'd you come from? How'd you grow up? And, how'd you get into this field? And, what are you up to now?
So first of all, I'll say Kerry Flowers. Most people think that I'm a female.
Oh, okay.
And so I get
think about that.
Probably 4 or 5 pieces of mail every week that said addressed to Mrs. Kerry Flowers.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, my wife, when we go out to eat, my wife, we keep a count every week we go out, like the waiter or waitress will come and they'll put, our debit card or credit card right between us.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not sure if it goes to Kerry. They're trying to figure out who it goes to, one or the other. So,
well, mine says Sydney Sexton. So there you go.
Well, we have a club, a support group.
We do.
And we really, So I actually got started. This is a roundabout way to get here. And that actually has to do with my Enneagram type. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But I got into physical therapy was my start. Actually,
oh my goodness!
Started as a PT back at UAB back in the early '90s. Got a graduate degree in that.
Yeah.
And, here I am today, 30 years later, doing something totally different. But it's easy for me to trace, the line through that. And it's really this. When I was a PT, I wanted to help people get better physically.
Sure.
And as I got deeper into PT, it's easy to see there's such a psychological component to getting better. And so I was in sports medicine, so I treated athletes, and they are very sensitive to mindset. Like you talk about any professional golfer, tennis player, athlete, there's such a huge component to being mentally ready to play the game at such a high level. So I started to really get interested in, well, if that's the case, why can't you apply that to yourself or to leadership and be mentally ready to be a leader? And so over the course of my career, I stayed in healthcare, but expanded into management and administration, and then started to dabble with leadership. And so that led me to, I was at Thomas Hospital, for about 6 or 7 years.
In an administrative position?
Okay. I was a director over all the therapy services and that sort of thing. Then if you remember back in 2006, infirmary and Thomas and several other hospitals kind of merged to make infirmary health.
I do recall that.
So at that point, I stepped into a new role and did leadership and organizational development with infirmary health, and then did that for about 6 years, and then went out into my own business and did this with leadership as far as executive coaching, training, and that sort of stuff from leadership. Then COVID hit. And so a lot of my business was generated by public speaking. I would go out and talk to people and, talk about executive coaching and all that stuff and training. Well, that dried up, in a heartbeat. And so for about a year there, I was like, you know what, this is going to be rough. And I really like to eat. And like food on the table. So
same.
So USA Health was going through a huge growth spurt. They were my number one client at the time. So they said, just come on board. And so I just went back into healthcare, and I've been at USA Health for about 3 years doing organizational development for them. So
nice.
That's kind of where I got it.
Explain to our audience what organizational development
so really
is.
Organizational development is it's a bundle of things. It's really culture, how to develop the right culture, how to onboard people, get the right people on board. Once they're here, how do you get them integrated into your organization? And how do you develop them as leaders? How do you really, a lot of training and coaching on how to get the most out of people within your organization. So it's kind of like there's a organizational component to it, right? It's like how do you make them fit? But then there's also the individual piece. How do you grow people to get to the best that they can be inside your company?
That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
See, listeners, you need to probably listen up to this. This is going to be great.
Yeah, it is. I mean, one of the things I think small business misses is paying attention to the culture that they begin their business with.
Yep.
And typically whatever you begin with, you carry it on through. And I think, and I talk to business owners all the time that are like, I'm even questioning if I like my own business right now.
Sure.
And what I've created and the culture that's there. And they don't say the word culture, but they use the word the environment that I've created. Yep. And so I've been there. Yep. Like there was a time in my business that I literally thought about shutting it down because I would go into work and I didn't like the place that I'd created.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I'll tell you this, typically, if you're a entrepreneur and you start with you, and maybe one other person. There's a point, where you get to, I don't know if it's 5 to 7 employees, but there's a point where you start to hire and you start to expand and you start to be able not to do all the work yourself. And that's where your culture really comes out. It's like, okay, who am I going to trust with going out to my customers and being an extension of me? Who do I trust saying, okay, this is the service I provide? And not only trusting them to be able to do that service, but also to share it and to be, a mini me, basically, of you.
Yeah. And you, I wish we were recording earlier when we were talking earlier. You had a really good explanation of culture and what you thought it was.
Yeah. It's funny that the podcast happened today because just this week, we have done a lot of culture work with USA Health. We had a retreat this week, and we brought in all the leadership from around, we just acquired Providence Hospital. We're going to officially start with them on October 1st.
I love a retreat.
It's a good,
well,
says a lot about your type. We'll talk about that in a minute. But But, bringing 7,000 people together it's not only daunting, but I want, especially with this audience that's listening, you think 7,000 and you're already tuning out.
Sure.
But I'll tell you this, the culture is really it's a collection of many cultures within an organization. And it really boils down to the personality of the leader. It really does.
Right.
We did a very famous cultural assessment before the retreat, and we shared the responses and the results with that. And basically, culture is 4 quadrants. There's 4 types of dominant cultures, and they can be tied back, hand in glove to personality.
Right.
It's about relationships on one piece. It's about results on the other part of that, the other opposite end of that. I would consider you guys, given your Enneagram numbers, which, this is a tease, keep listening. We'll tell you about this in just a minute. But y'all are results oriented, right?
Yeah.
And so you get the relationships piece of it. That's a necessary evil.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But the result, you got to get to stay in business. You're like, man, I got to stay on these results. But in healthcare, it's pretty cool. These are stats that are out there, and they're not just at USA Health. They're all over the place. In healthcare, you're talking about 80% typically women. Mm-hmm. In healthcare, and they're drawn to that because healthcare is it's a caregiving, organization. It's nurturing. You want to get people better. You care about the patient.
Sure.
So it's not a shocker, the predominant culture that they wanted to go to was family and relationships.
Relationships. Okay.
And so it's a pretty, you can tie it together if you're a business of 7,000 or 7.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Okay. So the Enneagram, I was in another, I'm in another group, and they part of our assignment for that group was to read the book A Road Back to You. Yep. Is it Ian Cron? Ian Cron.
Mm-hmm. Out of Nashville.
And man, it was fantastic. But the Enneagram, I had heard, and you hear lots of people like, who's the Story Brand guy?
Donald Miller.
Donald Miller talking about it a lot. And then he's got it in the Business Made Simple sort of deal. And I was like, I don't need another distraction because I'm trying to get the results that I need,
Right.
And I just avoided it. And, this came up, and I'm like, oh, well, this is probably the appropriate time. I started reading. I started talking to Keith about it. And
I knew what you were before you told me.
And it's fine. But, the really cool part of it that I thought was different than other personality profiles, like I mentioned, I'd taken others, is that, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, is that the others are static. And this one gives you an idea of how you move through life, healthy, unhealthy, stressed, or, free
Secure.
or whatever. Secure. Thank you.
Yep.
And then I heard people say I'm a 3 with a whatever wing, and I was like, that's silly, but now it makes perfect sense to me. So I think it's fantastic. Keith was already talking about it. Can you kind of help our audience understand the Enneagram just a little bit better?
Yeah. So I'm going to take a really big picture, and then I'm going to go back down to where we are in the Enneagram. The big picture goes back 70 years, probably in the 50s, with psychology. And what they basically boiled down psychology into 5 traits. Every personality has either a lot of this or a little bit of this in 5 traits. And it spells ocean or canoe, whichever, I don't know. I think those are the same 5 letters.
Okay.
And if I wasn't sitting here, I could probably remember all 5 of those. But I think it's conscientiousness, openness, agreeableness, neuroticism, and extrovert.
Okay.
Those are what those 5, stand for. So since that point, huge explosion in psychology and personality testing. Myers-Briggs came out.
Yeah.
DISC, all the ones that you mentioned before. One of the ones that y'all may have heard of being entrepreneurs is something called Strength Finders.
Oh, yep.
And so Strength Finders.
I forgot to even mention that one. I actually really like that one.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's and that's done through Gallup.
Yep.
And a lot of Gallup's work is how can you use the individual's personality to expand and develop their strength to make them the best person of who they are. And that really means if you've done that, you've made them the best employee that they are.
Well, and they're happy.
Absolutely.
They're operating in their strength zone. They're productive. They're happy. They're getting things done.
Yeah, and the buzzword for us in organization development is engagement. So if an employee's engaged, what that really means is they're willing to go the extra mile for you.
Right.
However, it's really hard to ask a team member, especially when you're onboarding them, hey, I want you to take this personality test. They immediately become nervous.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you're trying to do some kind of brain.
Oh, yeah.
Manipulation to them.
Yeah. We actually give the DISC and the strength finders, for that mid-management and above.
Yep.
So,
and I'm a proponent of the more info that you can find out about your people, the better.
It's not like a pass or fail, but it just helps us. Yeah. Okay, this is going to be a pretty good fit, or it's not.
Well, and continuing to answer your question about the Enneagram, why I use it and why I set it apart is, number one, it's free. You can go anywhere on the internet and find it. You can go to
I showed you mine, and I think it's free. Yeah.
And I think it's exploded in the last probably 20 years, probably less than that. And really, it's about 10 years.
10 years, I think. Yeah.
The millennials are great about podcast and internet, and so as millennials really showed us how to be entrepreneurs on the internet, it just proliferated like crazy. And so as it's really gained, and Ian Cron's book captured it, and man, it went crazy in the last 5 years. So everybody wants to know about themselves.
Well,
I think that's a big piece
I think
of it.
Millennials and Zers are way better at wanting to be feelers. They want to feel something. And so they want to know, like, look, I grew up in a way, hey, I don't really want to know about myself. I just got to go get something done. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they want to make a huge difference. And I think that's where the Enneagram lets you see what difference you can make.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And that's the key for me too. It's the two things. It's free. It's easy access. Anybody can get it. They can study it anytime they want. But the second thing to me is going back to the 1950s psychology stuff, every personality test since then has, in their own way, has defined how you think, how you act, and how you behave. Right? That's what they all have together, whether they're strength finders, whatever. But the Enneagram takes it a layer deeper, and you mentioned it earlier. It's not static. It takes it a layer deeper to show you why you think, act, and behave like you do. Mm-hmm. So there's a thing in Enneagram called unconscious motivation, and what is every type has an unconscious motivation that if you can deeply understand that, you'll know the why behind the way you act. And anytime you know that, you're teed up for self-help, and you're teed up to improve yourself a little bit better.
So give us, the broad overview of what the Enneagram is.
So it is very much like any kind of, I think the official name is like a psychometric tool, to help you understand your personality. And it's divided into 3 triads. And so the 3 triads are the body, and they're related to body, mind, and soul, or I'm sorry, body, mind, and heart. So the body types are 8, 9, and 1. Right. And so they are very instinctual. They are very, operate from their gut, very black and white, good or bad, good and evil, strong and weak, that sort of thing. Very dualistic thinkers. And so they tend to want to do something once they find out information. So these triads that I spoke of are the 3 divisions, the body, the mind, and the heart. Are really referred to as intelligence centers. It's how we receive information from the world. So for an 8, 9, and 1, which are the body types, they receive it and they want to do something.
So this is how we're interpreting messages from the world, and in I guess
it's how you receive data, information. Other internalize. Yeah, it's anything that how you receive information. We'll talk about it. What you do with that in a minute. Okay. And that's called the response or the stance, right? So internal or the intelligence centers are the soul types or the instinctual types, the body types are 8, 9, and 1. And they have the common emotion of anger. So 8s
can relate.
So 8s, if you are an 8 or you're married to an 8, you probably, I think Keith said a while ago that he knew it before you took the test. And that's because 8s tend to radiate anger outward.
I call it passion.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I'm just passionate. I'm not yelling. I'm just passionate.
No, could you turn him down, Keith?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that passion goes outward. I mean, you can't, you want to contain it sometimes, but it just comes out.
And if I try to contain it, it comes out worse.
Yeah. But that, I will say this though, that the 8 is the most passionate, the most energetic type. And that's what people feel. And that's what people see it.
Yeah.
You know, I had a friend of mine that was married to an 8 said, he's just angry all the time. He's mad all the time. And he's like, no, I'm not. You know, and the other thing too about 8s is kind of gasoline on the fire is they also don't mind debate and they don't mind being contrary. So that, you know, you lob a grenade in the room and just to throw out an argument, and then you can just walk away because you stirred the pot and you love it.
Well, I don't even want to walk away. I want to be in the mix.
Yeah, and that's actually
I love a fight.
Yeah, that's actually one of the unconscious motivations of the 8 is it's called actually every one of them. Every type has a deadly sin or a struggle, some people call it. And so 8s is lust, and it doesn't mean physical lust. It really just means that you want to be in the thick of stuff, intensity. Yeah. You know, you want to, intimacy to you it may be like instigation. You know, if you stir the pot, that's when you make a connection with people. And really when you make a connection, what you're seeing is you're kind of stacking them up. If I stir the pot here, what's underneath? Okay. Are you weak? Are you strong? Can I trust you? Can I not? Yeah. So that's... Yeah,
my love language is really trash talk. You know?
That's what is that, the 6th one that Gary Chapman talked about?
Yeah, I think it's the 6th one. And that's kind of banter, you know? I love it. Yep. And hit me back. I love that. Let's go.
I had an executive that was an 8 one time. We were going into a meeting and he had just come from a meeting and he had this grin on his face. And I said, what are you smiling about? And he said, I just left a meeting and nobody was talking. And it was a meeting with all the executives, the other executive team. He said, nobody was talking. He said, so I just lobbed an idea out there. He said, I didn't even agree with it. I just threw it out there to just start the debate. Yeah. And he said, I got him so stirred up and angry. And he said, I was just back over there smiling. Yeah. Because he just wanted to know. And really the reasons 8s do that is part is they want the truth. And they don't want to waste time on fluff.
I do not.
It's just give me the truth. I'm going to give you the truth. Yeah. By the way, if you're married to an 8, don't ask them if you look fat in a dress. Because they might tell you.
I have adapted and I have learned not to say those things. But it's funny you're mentioning that because I'm terrible at conferences where I've kind of got to small talk. I just don't like. Oh, yeah. I don't like it but I want to get deep. Yeah. And I want to learn. I want to help you. I want you to help me. I want to see how we can help each other. I want to learn new ideas and be opened up to things, but I just don't want to talk about the weather. Right. Or grass growing, No. So the Enneagram is, so that's the body type.
So that's body type, 8, 9, and 1. So
how they receive information, how they internalize it.
Yep, those are the intelligence centers, like I said. So whereas 8's anger is directed outward, a 1 is inward. And so they're very self-critical. And so they get mad at themselves. And what they get mad at is making mistakes. So that's why their unconscious motivation is to always push towards a standard of perfection. Okay. And so what they struggle with, their deadly sin is resentment, because how many people in the world are perfect?
Zero.
Yeah, zero. Well,
there was.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, we'll keep going.
Yeah, we'll keep going. So that's their resentment comes out because nobody works as hard as they do. Nobody cares as much as they do. Nobody does things the right way like they do. Yeah. So it bubbles up, and that's where it goes inward. And for the 9, their anger totally goes to sleep. So they're the most easygoing, relaxed, smooth as silk people. I have a son that's a 9. And they just basically want to go through the world with nobody disturbing them. So their deadly sin is sloth, which basically means you think, oh my gosh, that's lazy. But it's not lazy. They're actually pretty hard workers. They are hard workers. The sloth is their own self. They want to blend and merge with the world and just keep it smooth sailing. So they never rock the boat. Okay. and that they never want to take advantage of people. They never want to assert themselves to be center of attention. Favorite story about 9s, my oldest son's a type 1. I'm sorry, a type 9. And when we were going to buy his first car with him out of college, my wife, who loves to shop on the internet, right? More about that later, had it narrowed down. Toyota RAV4, same mileage, same price, same model, same everything, different color, gray, red, bright red, or gray. As a 9, he didn't want to stand out. He chose the gray one. He told us, you'll have more wrecks in the red one. I don't want to stand out. I want to blend in with the gray. Every Enneagram 9 I tell that story to, I say, which one would you pick? They're like, gray.
I'd pick the gray too.
And so, but they don't want to assert themselves or push. So they have a hard time.
Like it.
They have a hard time defining their own priorities, because that would be me asserting myself.
Yeah.
So I blend and I merge with others. By the way, a lot of 9s marry 8s.
Okay. Interesting.
Because 8s are so assertive that they assert enough for both of them.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And that's why you hear about opposites attract. It's true in the Enneagram. I mean, it's absolutely true.
Okay.
Absolutely true.
That's awesome. So the other one is the mind, you said?
So we go from body over to, if you go around the Enneagram, it's 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4. And 2, 3, 4 is the second triad, which is the heart piece of it. So 2, 3, 4 is all about feelings. And so I know y'all are already checking out right now.
No, I'm all about feelings. Let's go.
I don't think that's true. Do you,
I
Keith?
did, man.
I mean,
I'm
sometimes
sensitive.
he can roll into the sensitive
I'm
side.
sensitive. Look, I deal with flowers.
Oh,
Not
that's
candy
true.
flowers,
That's right. Okay.
Design.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Artistes.
I got it.
Let me tell you about one of our sponsors, Chris Drogmiller. He's with CMD Fencing. One, I really appreciate his support to the podcast. He listens to the podcast, but long before that, he has done several projects for me at my home, at our business, and the dude just does an awesome job. One of the things I really like about him is it's basically just him and someone that helps him. His attention to detail is phenomenal. The work is always high quality. If you've ever had a fence built, you know that the gate itself and how it opens and shuts is kind of the stamp of quality. It always works well. I've made him make some interesting kind of fencing where it's all horizontal. He had no problems with that, did a great job. And the guy is freaking awesome. He's easy to work with and he does a fantastic job. He's a firefighter. So, he works 2 days on and 2 days off. So he comes in and knocks my project out on the days that he's off. And the dude's awesome. You can find him on our website, overlaplife.com. You can find him on Facebook, CMD Fencing. And let's see, his phone number is 901-484-5546. So if you need a fence, need some fence work, call Chris Drogmiller, CMD Fencing. Okay, guys, everyone knows if you're a business owner, a business leader, or you're just a person in the world needing help with accounting, you need a real partner. You need someone that's going to listen to you and not just plug numbers in to make their job easy to do your taxes. At least that's what I want. I've been through a lot of accountants in my life, and I have yet to find one even remotely as good as Johnny Baranco. He's the owner of Baranco and Associates, and he's the kind of guy that really doesn't manipulate your books to make his job easier. He really is trying to give you insights into your business or into your financial planning world. Whatever your goals are, he's there to help. And so I just encourage you to give him a call. Baranco and Associates, look him up online. It's barancoandassociates.com and just see if he can help you. He really is the accountant that I recommend to everyone, even before he was a sponsor of the podcast. So please, if you need an accountant, just do yourself a favor and give him a call. Okay.
So 2, 3, 4, they have, whereas 8, 9, and 1 had anger as their emotion, 2, 3, and 4 have sorrow or shame. And it's people kind of raise their eyebrows when you say that, but it's really easy to understand when you think about 2, 3, and 4 are very concerned about their image to the outside world. What are they coming across as? So a 2, their image is, how can I help people? I want to be needed. And so their self-esteem is based on, am I helping somebody?
Okay. Sounds like a nurse.
Absolutely. A lot of 2s that are nurses.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had a great story about this real quick is, good friend of ours is a 2, had 3 kids. And she was all up in their business, taking care of them. I mean, I'm talking all up in it. So, and they 2s do that. They really kind of, I won't say manipulate, but they are definitely orchestrating the lives of the people because they care so much.
Yeah,
they're very generous.
They need
people.
their help.
Need them.
Yeah, you need my help. Class A helicopter mom.
As a matter of fact, great lead into that's the deadly sin of 2s is pride.
Okay.
And it's like, what in the world, pride? But the reason they have pride is because they think you need them more than they need you.
Yeah, when the opposite is actually true. Is that the shadow side of that coin?
They need humility to say, you know what, I have needs.
Okay.
But they never do it. They're always pushing to help other people. So anyway, this mom that I was telling you about, when all her kids went off, so did everybody's needs. So she had no needs to fill anymore, and she just kind of went in a funk for a while because who can I help? So it's very, very interesting.
My mother is a 2. Yeah.
Yep.
Mine is not. But carry on.
By the way, hey, I'll tell you this too. If you're an 8, which I think you are, you had a parent that was an 8 or a 3. Absolutely. I mean, somebody in your house, one of your dad or your mom was. I've never met an 8 or an 8 in life that didn't have
that wasn't raised by an 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wasn't raised by an 8 or a 3. And there's a lot of. You know what? Let's go into the 3 since it's next.
Okay, let's go.
So both 3s and 8s are very assertive.
Okay.
Both 3s and 8s are very much in control of their own feelings. So you can push down that feeling. You can deal with them later. You can minimize them. 3s and 8s are very, very similar to that. And so you're like, well, wait a minute. Hang on. I thought 3s were here in this heart triad.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question.
So here's the difference that between 8 and 3 is 8s, 3s, if you ask them, do you really care about people? 3s would say, yeah, that's how I get stuff done. I read my audience. I read what they're doing so I can, they're basically called the performer because they can be like a chameleon and line up with their audience to get stuff done. Mm-hmm. Both 8s and 3s get stuff done, a lot of stuff done. The difference is 8s don't quite care as much about people and their feelings as 3s do. That's the major difference between those 2.
Just a minor, just a little difference. How about that? It's interesting.
Yeah. So that's where 3s, they're in the feeling category, right? That triad, but it's more about how can I line up my persona to match the feelings of other people so I can get stuff done.
So 3s are leaders.
3s are also leaders. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So 2s want to hear I love you. 3s want to hear I respect you. 4s want to hear, oh, you're so unique. You're different. You're special.
Oh.
So 4, that's the image of the 4 is they want to be perceived as unique. So a lot of
creatives.
A lot of creatives.
I have a lot of 4s that work with me.
Yep.
And you can set their day by just saying, yep, that was so original.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
And cooking, art, writing, music, a 4 is going to have a creative outlet. So I'm married to a 4.
Okay.
And they're a ton of feeling. I mean, they think they are their feelings, and it's up and down. And sorry if you're listening, honey, it's up and down.
She doesn't. Not many people do. It's okay.
So if you can picture this, if you're the audience, if you are like a 3, a 7, or 8, and your feelings are. If you did like a little, you know how you do an EKG and it goes up, beep, 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 beep. So if you're a 3, 7, or 8, you may get one blip in a day. That's your feelings.
Yeah.
But a 4 is back-to-back EKG all the time.
Oh, okay.
So the feelings are, and they're bigger.
That sounds exhausting.
It is.
So
That's
the
what my
4 is
wife would tell you.
exhausting, huh?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I mean,
my wife
exhausted.
will tell you that. They are exhausting. I'm not going to answer
that. Setting traps over here.
They are. Yeah. But they have to. I haven't met a 4 yet that's not some type of creative. Yeah. They're going to have some kind of outlet. And on the converse of that, they're typically not very structured or organized.
Right.
So you wouldn't want to hire a 4 as an accountant.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they hate it, obviously.
Or an operations director. Keeping trains running on time. That's not their gang.
Yeah, they go,
no, you want to hire 4 as a designer.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
A freelance designer.
And then you don't want to talk to them
much.
You don't want to talk to them much because you can set them off.
Well, that's a good point, too.
You can kill the creativity.
About the 4. Yeah, they want to be unique and they want to be responsible for it on their own.
Right.
And they'll listen to you and then they'll do their own thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, they'll listen to you and do their own thing.
Yeah.
I know some people like that.
Yeah.
Keith.
So that's the So that's the heart piece of it.
Okay.
The triad. The last triad is the mind, the mental, the brain piece of it. And that's the 5, 6, and 7. So these types, they love to plan and research, right? And so their emotion though is fear. So their fear it's a little different for each one of them. 5s fear that the outside world is going to get them. And so what they do then is they put a protective barrier up. So 5s are very organized, and everything in their life is in a quadrant, in a box. They have a box for work, a box for their private life, a box for their hobby, whatever it is. They really like to compartmentalize, and they only think about it like they're a castle. They'll only let you in when they lower the drawbridge.
Why do they compartmentalize that? Because the fear that you're gonna manipulate them or take advantage of them or something?
They want to be self-sufficient. They don't want to depend on anybody else. So they keep the barriers up and they keep their life very organized so they can really, more than anything, they want to keep tabs on their resources.
Okay.
Their time, their energy, and they compartmental it also so they don't necessarily want you to come take things from them. So in other words, give you an example, 5s, if you put more than 3 meetings a day on their calendar, that's it. They're done because they're like a gas gauge. They start the day every morning at 8:00 on full. Every time they interact with somebody, it goes down a little bit.
Really?
And so they don't want to get on empty. That's their biggest fear is that you're going to take them down to empty and it's only 2:00 in the afternoon.
Oh man. Okay.
So they're very much self-sufficient, and they think that the more knowledge they take in, the more self-sufficient they'll be. So a lot of 5s you'll find as professors, theologians. A lot of 5s are theologians because they can go reflect and think by themselves and develop all these theories and philosophies to be able to cope with life. And so they're very, very, very self-sufficient in their thinking. And typically a lot of 5s will develop like a specific expertise, a niche, that they really like. I have a nephew-in-law that's a 5, and his 2 areas that he is an expert is board games.
Okay.
And Korean cooking. And it's strange,
2 things I didn't think we'd talk about today.
Board games and Korean cooking.
Yeah.
But his real job is he's in IT. And so a lot of 5s and 6s are in IT a lot because they're so logical. They're like Mr. Spock.
Okay. Gotcha. Without the pointy ears.
Without the pointy ears.
Yeah. Quick question before we move on to 6. Do you require everyone in your family to take the Enneagram? Is that like your thing? Is that
especially our daughters-in-law before they came in the family. And
that's a good one. Great idea.
But really more of a warning for them. So they would know what they were getting into.
Oh, gotcha. We want you to know who we are.
Here's our expectations.
Yeah.
Just brace yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
So number 6.
Oh, let's talk about this one. Stephanie.
What's wrong with the 6?
Stephanie's a 6.
Ahead and thinking? Okay.
Yeah, so 6s are thinkers, but they're very different from 5s. So 5s are very logical, very organized, and very, very structured in the way that their path goes. 6s are thinkers, but they are much more global thinkers. So they tend to spin a lot in their thinking because they're entertaining so many different ideas.
It drives me nuts.
So there's a lot.
So when you say spin, help me understand that.
So the hallmark of a 6 is, and one way you can really define them is that they vacillate on ideas. So they may say, this is what I want to do, but then they'll revisit it and go, maybe we should think about this.
Yeah.
And then they'll come back to it later and go, you're like, well, I thought we already decided that. And they're like, well, I didn't think about this.
Yeah.
So I need to go back and think about this. And so they're really defined by 2 words, and it's what if. And so they're always thinking about what if this happens and what's the plan if this happens. And they try to minimize uncertainty by planning and knocking out, I'm ready for this. This contingency comes up, I'm good. So they want to be certain and they want to be safe. Safe is really, really, really important. We've talked about Forrester, and part of the podcast that we did with him was he's married to a 6.
Okay.
And one of my favorite
Amber seems like she would be a 6.
She is very, very good about being a 6.
And, very good about being. I like
but
that.
Like she used to travel across the Bayway, and she has her car ready for anything that could go wrong.
Okay.
So they are very contingency type planners.
Okay.
So in the back of her car trunk, she has a thing that knocks out the windshield of the window in case you go over the Bayway, even though the Bayway is only 18 inches deep.
Yeah. Really.
Okay.
Just stand up.
Just stand up, Amber. You're fine.
Yeah.
So thing to knock out the glass in case water comes in. But then she's got, a blanket, extra pair of clothing, MREs like food. If you're not kidding.
You're not real.
Shoes, I think I said shoes, and then matches, flashlight, all this stuff in her car in case something happens. And I'm like, if you go across and go over the Bayway, people are going to see you. You're not going to be camping out for 8 years until somebody finds you.
There's like 100,000 people going by
there. Yeah, it's going to be okay. But that's what they do. They plan so they can be sure and they can be certain. They hate ambiguity.
And this is a 6.
This is a 6.
Oh, man.
This is 6. And they're, we talked about, I don't know if we talked about. The fear of the 5 is somebody's coming to take your stuff. So they want to be self-sufficient. The fear of the 6 is more. It's not a fear; it's anxiety. So they're worried about what could happen. They're worried about.
Oh yeah, we have to go over who's going to be there.
Yeah.
What's the people like?
Yep.
What are the people like?
I have to talk. My wife would like a guest list,
a bio
before she ever gets there.
Oh, okay, with photos.
And I'll be like, "This is
love list."
Yeah, that she keeps 40 lists around the house. But the problem is her unorganized 5 gets into her list. So
we're gonna get to that. Yeah, I'm holding on to those.
Yeah. So that's the big thing for 6s is that those lists and the discussion is so that they know that they can be sure.
They need to stamp down the anxiety. Yep. They need to put that fire out.
Yeah, Stephanie will go between career options like nobody else. I should do this and I should do that.
Oh, okay.
Or I should be that or I should do this. But what if?
What if?
And here's the thing, and I don't want to get too deep in the Enneagram, but if you look on it's a circle, right? The Enneagram circle. So 3, 6, and 9 are in the middle of each one of these triads I'm talking about. So if you remember what I said about 3 and their feelings, they're kind of disconnected with their feelings. Even though that's the feeling category, 6s are disconnected with their brain a little bit because they're unproductive thinkers. Here's why. You're supposed to be a good thinker if you're 5, 6, 7, right?
Right.
But they overthink.
Oh,
yes. Inefficient or what?
It's
unproductive?
Unproductive is a better word. Yeah, they overthink things so that it's analysis paralysis.
I call it chaotic.
Yeah, it can be chaotic.
It's chaotic to follow their thinking.
Yeah, it's hard. It really is. And because they're trying to anticipate so many different options and they're trying to entertain them. So the 7 is the last of the thinking, and they are the best.
We are the best.
Yeah, they're the best.
Yeah, we're the best. Absolutely. That's what I am.
So I'll go back to my bio.
They're great podcast guests.
They are awesome podcast
because
guests.
they're
humble.
And they are humble. So tell us about the 7.
So and I am a 7. So here's
shocker.
Yeah, here's why I'll tell you about why my career is a little diverse and varied, because 7s want to have new and exciting stimuli all the time.
Okay.
So it's hard for them to focus on one thing at a time. So I started as PT.
Right.
I went into healthcare.
Which I think was crazy.
Yeah, I went into administration, management, started my own business, went back. So I'm fluttering. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to be when I grow up.
Yeah, I've done that in kind of that way, but with products in my company.
Yep. That's right.
We're going to do photography, and then we're going to do video, and then we're going to do podcasting, and then we're going to do books, and then we're going to be all these things.
Yep. Yeah, and so a 7 is what's the next best thing? That's where I want. I'm going to try whatever.
Thing.
So it's like, and that's their deadly sin is gluttony. So it has zero to do with food, although I do like me a buffet.
I love food.
I love food. Yeah.
So the gluttony is I need to sample a little bit of everything in life and try it, but I'm really never satisfied once I eat it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, I'll try all these foods and I'm still wanting to get that next best thing. What's the next on the list? And I'm waiting for it to come out so I can really try to
So
get.
are you a Wits fan? Do you know?
Oh.
Yeah, because every week it's a new flavor, and I just go.
Red Velvet last week.
Yeah, Red Velvet was fantastic.
Red Velvet. And
it's
then,
like butter pecan or something this week. I'm already planning on it.
So funny.
but I get everything at Wits with, I love their peanuts because they're chopped so fine.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I put peanuts on everything there.
Okay.
Is Wits a sponsor?
Not
No,
yet.
not yet, but they should be.
Yeah. So should Melon, and all
They
those.
could.
Okay. So
Yeah.
sevens, what do you
So
call
they-
do you call them enthusiastic visionaries? That's what this one says, but there's other things.
That's exactly what they're called. Yeah.
Okay.
And they are also going back to the thinking part of this, that what they, the gluttony is the originators. By the way, the Enneagram, nobody really knows where it came from.
That was the coolest part.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm glad we're just a little bit. Just say that, because people think that some psychologist came up with this to create some money or generate whatever, and it's not, man.
It's not, and
it's been around for a long time.
Nobody really knows, but probably at least 500 years. So it predates psychology. And the ancients that developed this thing, were, and this is where a little bit of the controversy comes in. We were talking about this when we started about, I think Keith called it the Christian horoscope.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people out there that would say that because there's the mind, body, soul connection, which is, it's in a lot of not just Christianity, that's in Jewish religion and other religions. It's heart, mind, body connection. And so, that you can certainly go that route, but really it's more of I won't say it's a self-help. I think it goes deeper because of that layer of why you do what you do, that unconscious motivation. That really, it's almost, I've had people in the classes that we do talk about it as it's scary. It pegs you so closely to what you are. It's a little eerie. Mm-hmm. Because it really points out, like for me as a 7, as a glutton, I can tell you at work, like once I get in and I do like whatever I'm trying to catch up on for 8:30, I'm like, my mind really wants to wander at that point. It's like, I've got a few minutes. I've caught up. What can I do to entertain myself here for a second?
Yeah.
And then I've got to constantly say, don't do that. You're being gluttonous.
Yeah, don't have TikTok on your phone ever.
Do not do that. As a matter of fact, I have eliminated all pretty much social media or anything, so I don't go there.
Me pretty much,
yeah. I have to do that, so I created Focus on my phone.
Me too. I was just going to say Focus is on my phone all the time, and I'll go, I need to get something done for 2 hours. There we go.
That's right.
Nothing's going to work.
Yep.
Love that. So now, here's where I was like, man, okay, we've explained, the 9 different types of Enneagram types. But the interesting part is that it's not just that, you've got wings. So what are explain the wings aspect.
So, and let me do this too, because a lot of people, especially when you first are introduced to the Enneagram, you want to try to find out what your type is.
Yeah.
What's my type? And what everybody has to realize, and this is true of any personality test, you're all 9 types, right? I mean, we're very complex as humans. Personality is really, really complex. If we were on a battlefield in Afghanistan, we'd be totally different people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Environment does kind of dictate certain responses, right?
It certainly does. And you can bring out any type that's in you to meet a certain situation that you're in. But having said that, we have a default type. I mean, we do have a default type. So that's a huge piece of finding out who you are as a type. The wings, and again, I want to clarify this. A lot of people get hung up on saying I'm a 2-wing 1 or I'm a 7-wing 8 or whatever it is, 9-wing 1. It doesn't change your type. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It really, what the wing is really about is that when you're healthy, you can take on a certain a trait or two of the type that's next door to you. So the wing is really only whatever is on either side of your type. So if you're an 8, you can only be a wing 7 or a wing 9. Mm-hmm. You can't be an 8 wing 2.
7.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's got to be right next door to you. So
interesting.
Yeah.
That's why it's a wing.
That's why it's a wing.
Duh.
That's right. You got two of them.
Gotcha.
2 wings on either side of whatever your main body is. So
awesome.
So that's the wing piece of it. And really, again, like I said, it doesn't change your base type. And I'll give you an example real quick. So as a 7, right? So if I have a wing that's an 8, 8s are way more focused than 7s.
Okay.
Right. So they can really hone in on something and get her done.
Yeah.
So if I do have a 7 wing 8, 2 things will happen. Number one, I'll probably be less ADD as a 7. I'll be a little bit more focused, and I'll probably be a little bit more blunt. 7s are a little bit more diplomatic than 8s, and they can use humor and pick up on subtleties that 8s probably don't care about.
And no one pins me as a 7. Everyone pins me as an 8.
Yeah.
But
no, I pin you as a 5.
That's why
or a 3.
That's why I took the test so many times, because everybody kept saying you're an 8, you're an 8, you're an 8, and it's only because I have the ability to be very blunt at certain times.
Yep. So did that answer your question, by the way?
Yeah, it does. Okay. That helps. But you said that there's 2 of them. So why do you say like an 8 wing 7 if there's 2 wings? So is the 7 the healthy version, and then the other wing is the unhealthy version?
No, that's a good question. No, it just really, you don't have to be both wings.
Okay.
You don't, you can be, and again, I want to just reiterate, you can go into either wing of either type at all times. You know what I'm saying? Like going back to our example as a 7. So if I go to my wing 6 as a 7, what I'll do is I'll plan a little bit better. And I'll get into the detail a lot more than my normal 7 self, because as a 7, I don't care about details really. It's going to work out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But a 6 is like, don't take that chance.
No. You
got to plan this out a little bit more. So I can gravitate towards that. If y'all remember back in the day, remember when we had printers that you had to, if you had a normal printer that was hooked up to your desktop, and you just went, if you click print, it just went boop, and it just printed. But if you wanted it in color, you had to default to another printer.
I do recall that. Yes.
You had to think about it. I want to route this Word document to another printer.
Yeah.
That's kind of what personality is when you just are normally functioning all day long, you're just defaulting. I'm my 7. I'm just going to act like a 7. But if I'm with somebody that is more meticulous and detailed, I need to go, whoa, what? I need to get out of my default self, and I need to go, what do I need to do to connect with that person? Which again is a great tool with the Enneagram. You can do that. You can, like, I work with a very, very strong 1 who is very detailed, wants it perfect every time, wants to do something as soon as, as she hears a piece of information. And I constantly have to say, it'll work out. I have to be careful to say it'll work out. And she's like, well, how? I don't see how it's going to work out. You have to paint that picture for me better.
Yeah.
When I have to operate as an 8, it exhausts me.
Yeah.
So even though it's a trait, if I have to move over there, and I can very easy, but it exhausts me to
and
do
that
it.
Is a really good point when I'm executive coaching people, because to get out of your normal type, it takes more time and energy for you to do that.
Okay.
So like if I'm going back to that one example, if she's like, let's create this spreadsheet, first of all, spreadsheet. But then I go, okay, well, what do you need? And she'll go through 27 things. I'm like, can we boil it down to 3?
Yeah.
So that's, it really helps you understand a lot about who you're dealing with. And that helps you communicate much, much better.
That's a perfect segue into what I really want, because I do think everyone takes a personality profile really concerned about themselves.
Oh yeah.
And this podcast is really, the Overlap podcast is really, yourself and kind of the overlaps within life. But then, we're really talking to business leaders and or operators, or, people in some sort of leadership, whether it's at home or work or someplace else, community. And what I really got out of the Enneagram was just better, deeper insight into how others are. And so how I need to help them, put them into a position. And, we talk about strength finders. I really like that one because it gives me words.
Oh, yeah.
But this gives me broader concept of who you are and what position you might be able to fill that's actually going to be in your strengths. And really, how do I communicate with you? And if you're a 1, I need lots of details, and I'll think longer on that, and I'll actually probably send you a preparatory email first with a list of the things we're going to discuss.
Absolutely.
So it does help me become a better communicator and therefore a better leader. So I love that part.
Yeah, and I'll give you a couple examples. Going to what I like to say when I'm coaching leaders is that the strength of your Enneagram type can also be your weakness if you overuse it.
Right.
So
sort of any strength, right?
That's absolutely right. So
we'll talk about jiu-jitsu later, but it's 100%. Your strength is also your weakness.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So as a 7, I have no problems coming up with multiple ideas or options to get something done. I mean, it's just easy. It just comes natural for me. But what that can boil down to is I don't get work done if I get too caught up in my ideas.
Yeah.
And so if I know that about myself, I have to guard against that and go, okay, enough with the ideas. Let's start moving on action. Let's get some
I
stuff
will
done.
Create ideas so I don't have to work.
That's right. That's
Fair
a great
enough.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm creating ideas, I call it working.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I'm like, ideas are cheap.
Yeah.
Results are really what pays the bills.
Yep.
Let's come up with 2 and pick the best one out of those, and let's go.
And I'll tell you, going back to your question about how does a person with 3 employees use this, to really
Perfect. Thank you.
to help my business. I think one of the best ways that you can be a better boss or a better leader if somebody can't pick out your Enneagram type. And so here's what I mean by that. If people say, I can't, I think I might know, but I'm not sure. It's probably because you've spent enough time saying, I'm a 7. I know I have too many ideas, but I have to slow that roll and I have to figure out how to be sober, which is that's my virtue. And the sober or the sobriety of this is, all that excess you don't need, just focus on this one thing and get it done. So if I'm a 7 and I'm focusing on what I want to get done, and I just stay on that till it's done, that's very un-7-like. So somebody else may not be able to understand that. Well, if I can figure that out and I can coach myself on that, what I'm really telling myself is I recognize my weakness and I want to work on it. And what that opens me up to is being open to what you're giving me and what your strengths are. And so then we can start having dialogue about, okay, I get it now.
That's
you
a
just
much better way.
valodated me, though, because I like to be validated, too. I think
That's right.
that's a part
That's
of the
exactly
7.
right.
You just validated me that nobody can pick my type.
Yeah.
Well, and really, and really, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Is I think it's a way better tool to help you interact with others than it is me. I mean, knowing about who I am is great.
Right.
That's like step 1. But step 2, going a little bit deeper, is how do I utilize that and know that other people are something different and try to pick what their type is and not beat them over the head with it, but try to serve them.
Yep. That's right.
So we can get things done because results matter.
They do. They really do. And it's okay. I mean, I'm not saying that you should hide your type, because I think it is very helpful.
But if you beat people over the head with whatever type it is that and you go too far, like you said, sober, unsober is just going all out in that one realm, and it's just not healthy for anyone.
Yep. I think when you look at the best leaders, there's a lot of data coming out now on what leadership is becoming, particularly with the younger generation. How do you lead them? How do you, I hear this all the time at work is they just have a different work ethic. They have a different mindset than we used to. And there's a quote by Socrates that is, I always show this to our leaders, excuse me, and Socrates is saying, the younger generation is basically lazy. They have a different work ethic. They just want to sit around and do this, blah, blah, blah. But he said it in 400 BC. And it's exactly what you hear every generation say about the younger generation behind it. Right. So, excuse me, it's been around forever.
When people say that, and I'm around a bunch of other landscape folks, and we're really people driven and it's kind of a blue collar, hard work, any of the trade stuff. And they'll start to complain about, inevitably the generation. I'm like, hey man, what do you think your parents' thought? Because they were burning flags, you know.
Right.
They were like Vietnam War and like all this crazy new music and like, you know, free love. And it was coming out of the 50s. That was shocking. Yep. This is probably okay. We'll get past this one. These kids are going to be all right.
It's going to be all right.
Your parents thought the world was going to come to an end.
Oh my gosh. I know it's, I was watching a documentary about the Holocaust last night, and it was like, man, you think we got it bad. I mean, it's like, wow.
Yeah, could you imagine?
It's crazy.
I could not.
But
and everyone was lying about it too, you know, like all the propaganda. You didn't know what was right. There was no Twitter or X or whatever they call it now.
And that was a big piece of the documentary is who's telling the truth about this.
Who's telling the truth?
It was very true. Because what was coming out of Germany, totally different.
Dude, they had
crazy.
They had the you know,
it's kind of the same
propaganda
thing.
Down then.
It's kind of the same thing we have to ask ourselves right now. Is
right.
Who's telling the truth about this? Like any of the propaganda that's out there.
Well, I think. Well, I don't know. I hope that the intelligent class understands that, you know, you're getting bits and pieces from different, and it's the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, you'd hope.
I'd hope. It's probably not. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else regarding the Enneagram that our audience, you kind of heard who we are and what we are? I mean, is there anything that else that they need to know? Is there any final thoughts on that?
I think, you know, we don't want to back people into a corner. Sure. I think that's the big thing is that we're all 9 types. We have a dominant type or a default type that we are pretty much operate with once we get past about 18 or 20. It's pretty much set. You know, I don't think there is a whole nature nurture. You know, are we born with it? Do we develop it? And I think most psychologists have come up with there's duality there. We're a little bit of who we are because of our, you know, I mean, my kids, all 3 very different. They grew up in the same house.
Yeah, mine too.
You know, so there is a little bit of both of that. But the other thing I would just encourage your listeners to especially with a small business is this is a tool that is not just in corporate America. Personality trait, you know, our testing, you can do it with a company of 3 just so you can get along better or have productive meetings, you know, or set your strategy, whatever it is. It really does help to understand who can do what better, you know, and where you plug each personality type in. And then they like that. I mean, people really want to know what's expected of them at work. You know, they want to know what you have in store for them. And they really want to know, are you using my gifts and abilities like, you know, I think I can.
Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to be engaged. You know, everyone wants to feel productive and part of a team, you know. Yeah. That's fantastic. I don't know that we could even do any more on that. That's great.
The only thing I would say is that I've heard a lot of people use the Enneagram to justify their lack of ability in one of the other quadrants. Yep. And it's not, and if you use it that way, it's very you can justify a lot out of, that's just the way I am.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'll even use it. Hey, that's just the way I am.
Yeah.
And I would say, well, change. Just change. Come on.
That's why I don't let my wife pay the bills, because she'd forget about them.
Oh, yeah. Not mine. I would. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
And my wife thinks she can pay the bills, but she can't.
Because, well, what if we had this money?
Yeah, what if? Yeah.
We could use it here, and then we could do that, and then, oh my God, it's late.
Yeah. $25 fee.
Oops.
Yeah.
Keith, anything else on this?
No, man. I think this is good. We have gone through the gamut. Man,
I got to tell you, I really did, like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, and I think you and I walking over here, I avoided this because I don't know. I don't even really know why, because it became kind of pop culture-esque, you know, and maybe I was, you did sort of say, you know, results driven. I think especially when it was getting popular, let's say 5 years ago is when I really heard about it more and more.
Yep.
I really was kind of driving forward, trying to get results and building this organization. And I just didn't want to get distracted. But it's been incredibly beneficial to me to just open my mind up. Like I said, I've probably said it 3 or 4 times now, that just how can I communicate to others better? It's allowed me to see that other people are different. And it doesn't make them bad or better than me or anything. It just allows me to be a better leader and to connect with those folks better.
So what I would say in response to that is that you're a very healthy 8, because 8s typically want to control the situation, the environment, the people, so they don't have to be vulnerable in front of them.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because we talked about this and we weren't recording, and we probably should have been, but yeah. I think I've known that about myself for a while. So I've constructed my life in a way and drug Keith into, or he drugged me, whatever, but in ways where I don't get a chance to do that. So jujitsu, like you may not know anything about it, but essentially it's a martial art that's vastly superior to all others. But but the key component of it is in my opinion, is that it takes away, you can talk about it, you can have the best stuff or whatever, but it really boils everything down to, are you skillful or are you not? Mm-hmm. And if you're not, you're going to get choked unconscious, or we're going to get it to the point where it's either going to break a limb or you're going to say, you got me.
Yeah, tap out.
There's zero, there's no fluff in it.
Right.
And I love that. And I'm constantly getting humbled, and I'm constantly seeking out others, and I don't have to much anymore because we've got a group of savages that just beat me up every day. So I'm getting humbled all the time. And I think that's what allows me to be a healthy 8, is that I'll get to a certain point and think that I'm great at whatever. Mm-hmm. And I try to surround myself in other aspects of life too with people that are just absolutely better than me.
Yeah.
You said like a typical 8.
Yeah, I was going to say, the virtue of 8's being innocent. It's like being like a little kid, like learning and being open. I love it. And that's exactly what you just described.
I'm like addicted to learning.
Yeah.
And I guess other people could do that with golf, because you'll never get 100% at it.
Right.
But I like to possess a skill that might be useful in a street fight or something.
Yeah. Never know.
So, there's that. And CrossFit even, I'm just, you get real clarity. Yeah. And I struggle with meditation, but if you work out really hard, I'm not thinking about anything.
Right.
CrossFit or jiu-jitsu, my mind is blank. Mm-hmm. And when I get done, I'm like, whew, that was great. Yep. Wasn't that great? We almost died. This is fantastic.
Wasn't that great? We almost died.
Yeah, this is fantastic. And I feel like, oh man, we're better friends now through shared suffering, you know? Sure. And I've been constantly building communities through gyms of shared suffering. And then also just like, hey, I'm going here. I'm pushing myself to be something different and do things that I didn't think was even possible. You can do it too. Mm-hmm. And, so that's kind of my thing.
That's awesome.
And maybe that's how I'm healthy 8. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely part of the journey.
Because I do think, I do know, and I feel it, and I think there's a lot of shame when I get unhealthy and I think that I'm better or something, because I'm not, I really am not. I just, I'm just kind of driven on certain things. But there's people out there that are way better and done it way longer and have figured out things way faster than I have. And I like that.
So now that we've just shared with the world how they can look at the inside of our heads, they're going to start doing that.
Right.
Yeah. And Keith is a 7 with a wing what?
8.
Wing 8. Oh yeah, because you're blunt. Yeah, you're actually more blunt than I am. But I think I've dealt with more people.
Maybe
I need more people to get things done. Maybe I got some 3 in me too.
Could be. Yeah.
I'm like, I need to make sure that I communicate in this way so you all understand me and we can get this thing done. Yeah. Well, is there anything do if people have questions or want to connect with you, is there a way
you have no social media, so
I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I figured LinkedIn. We'll link you up on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm terrible at LinkedIn. I'm just terrible.
And we're actually growing there a lot.
Are we?
So,
oh my gosh. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
I really
I've enjoyed
appreciate
it.
you being here. This is fantastic. Keith, you got anything else?
No, man, I think that's great.
You know, please support our sponsors. And if anyone is in the WITS organization, that's the Daphne Custard.
Yeah, we would like your sponsorship.
Yeah, reach out. You can pay us in like frozen custard.
I will take that.
I will take that. Gluttony, I can be there. I promise you.
Yeah, you and me both.
It's not a stretch.
I will eat all of the sushi too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, man, this was fantastic, Kerry. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Please support our sponsors. They make it possible for us to do this podcast. There actually are expenses. I know it's shocking. And thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the podcast. I mean, it's been over 2 years now.
I know.
Like we're coming up on 3, and it's been a good time. And I hope we're still adding value to you. I hope that we're taking large, seemingly large corporation concepts and boiling them down and making it palatable to you, the business leader, business owner, or just the guy or girl that wants to become better in life. That's the overlap concept, is that there's no compartmentalization in life. And how you become better in one aspect of life is absolutely going to help you become better in the other. And hopefully learning about these personality traits is just one more tool in your toolbox.
Overlaplife.com.
All right. With that, I guess we better shut down or I'm going to say something stupid.
There it is.
All right.
Peace. Hey guys, this is Keith. Let me break down a scenario for you. Are you a business owner that is overwhelmed by the options of investing, but you're being told you need to invest in retirement, you need to invest in mutual funds, you need to buy some single stocks? Well, I have your fix. C2 Wealth Strategies, ran by our friend Wes Cody. Their website is c2wealth.com. If you are looking at investing at all and are confused by it, give them a call today. They will be happy to handle whatever you need. He's brought up very specific things that I need to be working on as a business owner in my investing life. Let him do that same thing for you. c2wealth.com, or go to the overlaplife.com page and click on sponsors.
Hey there. My good friend Steve Bousquet and his partner Christine Era, the owners of Green Profit Academy, are super excited about a new product they've got coming out. If you didn't know, they're the authors of Profit First for the Lawn Care Business. And it's a book written by Christine Era. Steve plays a big role in sort of adding to that. But they've got that book. It's already out. But if you're an audiobook listener and you just learn better by listening, they've got the audio version coming out. And I think this is really cool. They've got Christine Era narrating the audiobook, and she does a really good job. I've heard some clips of it. It's pretty fantastic. And Mike Michalowicz, the original author of Profit First, he reads the foreword. And so they've got a book launch that's going to come out on their website, Green Profit Academy, and you should stay tuned for more information about that. They're going to have some giveaways. They're going to have some other special deals going on. But the book itself, the audio book, will come out September 12th. So please be on the lookout for that. And if you need some help with Profit First for your green industry business, please give them a call or look them up, Green Profit Academy. Thanks so much.